Welcome to the Pull the Chute podcast with Jeff and Jana. This is our weekly venture into the world of small to medium-sized businesses and the entrepreneurial spirit that drives success.
So our goal here is to help you grow and to be the best you can be, both in business and personally. To do that, we identify and we discuss topics that will hopefully help you as you work to build a successful business.
We also interview business owners and executives. It's our hope that you may be able to gain insight on ways to help you be a better leader and provide a better culture for your people.
Our mission here is to help you pull the chute once a week to work on your business instead of always working in your business.
So we hope you find these discussions insightful, helpful, and useful.
And thanks for your support. We hope you enjoy today's podcast.
Well, welcome everyone to the Pull the Chute podcast with Jeff and Jana. We are so excited that you've tuned in to listen to our show. Jana, how are you doing this morning?
I'm good. How are you?
And I said this morning, it's actually this afternoon here in Nashville. I don't know.
That's right. Afternoon already.
I know, but the morning just disappeared on me. It's kind of crazy. So we are looking forward to some wonderful, wonderful weather coming up this weekend. So if you're in the Nashville area in the middle of April, please enjoy that. I hope you enjoyed it anyway by the time you're listening to this. Jana, we have a very interesting guest. Neal DiPentino is on our show today. I was actually on Neal's podcast. He does podcasting for his business, Titan Media Worx. And so I'm very excited to talk to Neal. Neal, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate you having me on.
Sounds good. So, hey, Neal, so do us a favor. We always like to do this with our guests. Just give us a little bit of background so they know who you are and how you kind of got started into Titan Media Worx.
Well, thank you very much for that. I appreciate you letting me spend some time with you today. Titan Media Worx, for the most part, is a 13-year-old startup. We were a Fortune 5,000 marketing company, and we use podcasting as a lead generation tool for our own business. Okay. And we really enjoyed doing the podcast primarily because of the wonderful people that we had the opportunity to meet, and it was a great lead generation tool and drummed up a lot of business for that particular company. Since then, we've actually sold the marketing business, but we held on to the podcasting. So we basically are a podcast production company, a video production company, and so we do our own podcast. I have actually two now, one called Business Breakthroughs, where I work with business coaches, leadership coaches like yourself. And I also have another one that we just started here a few weeks ago called Brand Mavericks, where we talk with franchisors, franchise brokers, consultants, and that type of thing. But then our main primary business is doing production for other people. So we're doing production right now for about 20 some odd different clients, where we actually take the production part of the business out of their hands, give them the opportunity to just kind of be the star of their own shows and let us deal with all the baloney on the back end, the stuff that nobody likes working with. So that's what we do.
Very interesting. Very interesting. So give us a little more what that looks like from a production standpoint. So do they come into a studio? Do they do it like we're doing it, over a just video connection? How do you go about that? Or is it both?
It's a little bit of both. We actually have studios in-house here in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, where we bring people in. They'll come in and do shows. We have a one business coach here locally in particular that does a 2-camera show where they come into the studio. We do audio video production, and so we have them all set up. We basically built the studio around what their needs were. We produce the show. We have a producer that sits in on the show with them as they're doing their interviews. And once they're done, like I said, they get to be the stars of the show. Once they're done, they leave. We take it over from there. We do all the editing. We do the intros, the exits. Then we do the distribution, the whole 9 yards, everything that's involved with the process of getting that piece of material out into the world, with the exception of the marketing. We don't do a lot of marketing. We do a little bit, but not a whole lot of marketing. And then as far as we also do the virtual shows, very similar to what you're doing. We don't use Zoom. We use another service called StreamYard, which gives us a little bit different kind of look. It's more of we actually record the programs on 2 different tracks where when I'm speaking, I'm full camera. When you're speaking, you're full camera. So it gives us that full production look. So what we do is we have a production person who sits in with our clients to help them through the process for the first probably 10 podcasts that they do, and then it's pretty simple, easy peasy. They can take it over from there. We can stay with them if they want us to. But again, once everything's said and done, they give us we record up to the cloud, so we already have the content when the interview is complete or when the podcast is complete. And then we do whatever editing we need to do as far as video and audio. We add a beginning and ending, some graphics, some sound, some fun stuff to make it sound really cool and look really cool. And then we distribute it to 13 different streaming services as well as YouTube.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Jana, do you have a question at this point? I'm sure you do.
Well, the interesting thing is, do you have a specific type of podcast that you're looking for as far as format goes? Do you generally do it like we do it, where it's just sort of free flowing, or do you have a set group of questions that you like to ask businesses to kind of engage or specify like the direction that you want that podcast to go?
Well, we primarily work with businesses, so we don't really do the murder mystery type stuff, or we do have actually a couple clients that are not business clients. They are voiceover actors in Hollywood that we do, and we do their work for them as well. For our own shows, we try to. It's really kind of like a couple people just having a conversation, just like we're doing right now. We do a lot of research on the clients or on the guests that we have in advance, so that we kind of have an idea of who they are, what they do, and how they do it. But then once we get going, we make the introduction and we get the show going. It's just really kind of the question and answers are really more organic, based on wherever the conversation is going. And we usually try to keep it to about 20, 25 minutes. So we like to do things in bite sizes, so that a person who is listening or viewing one of our podcasts can do it, while they're working out or in their office, that type of thing. It's not something you have to be. That's the beauty about podcasting, is you don't have to be in one location in order to enjoy it.
Yeah, I find that great. So let me ask the question. You do both video and audio. We kind of just focus on the audio. Do you find that the video is more advantageous? I mean, you're the expert here, advice would be, should we be doing both video and audio?
Well, it's kind of leaning that way. In general, most people get their podcasting through audio. They're listening as opposed to watching. But as we move forward, we're seeing that more and more podcasts are being made available on video, and people are requesting that they be made available on video, because it's kind of like, in a sense, it's kind of replacing television. And so people want to be able to actually make that connection with the person they're listening to. So like we're having a conversation right now, and you've got a beautiful background. I love the hat and the beard, the whole 9 yards. I mean, but we can't see that on audio.
Right, that's true.
Audio alone. So and I don't know, I'm kind of old school. I mean, I've done a lot of business and sales and marketing over the years by telephone, but my favorite type of sales has always been that one-on-one, face-to-face type stuff. And so the audio video gives you that it makes that connection for you, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Jeff looks very Nashville with that guitar and
That's what I was thinking. I'm a little bit jealous, actually. I'm a lot jealous. No, it looks really good. Let me add one other thing too. The one thing that's also really cool about you adding video is then you gain the power of YouTube. So if we're putting like a video on YouTube, then actually you're taking advantage of the power that YouTube and Google brings to what you're doing. And if your goal is to bring people back, say, to your website, I mean, that's golden.
Yeah, and I think that's the one thing, Jana, that maybe we ought to consider here.
Yes, I know. We do need to do some more videos.
Yeah, that would be kind of, well, we usually have all our videos, so that's kind of great. So Neal, when you guys are going through the process here, is there a limit to the type of podcast? I mean, you said you do business, right? But is it like any business that comes up, and then do you guide them into topics? Because sometimes I'm sure you come across and do you want to put the snore sound on because it's so boring? Do you kind of help them to because podcasts are, one of the reasons Jan and I work so well together is because we bounce off each other really well.
Yeah,
sure. Yeah.
There are times when maybe she has a little more energy than I do, or I have a little more energy than she does, and so it kind of helps us to do that stuff. But do you kind of guide them to try to make the podcast better as well? Or do you see
I do. I do. I mean, like I said, we do a little research on the clients, or I'm sorry, the guests that we have on the shows in advance, so we kind of have an idea of where we want to go with the conversation before we actually talk with them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really good to do that because it's interesting that you say that, because I've had people on the show who, you ask them. I had this one guy who was really cracking me up. It was like, I asked him, and I said, "Tell me a little bit about yourself." 30 minutes later, he said, "Well, that's me." And I'm like, "Great. Thank you for being on the show. Love having you." He said, "Oh, man, you ask great questions." And the only question I ever asked the entire show is, "Tell me a little bit about yourself." But then I've had people on the show that, within the first 10 minutes of a 20, 25-minute show, you've used up all your questions. You're really, trying to drill down to get somebody to just tell you something.
Yeah.
And those are rough, I think, not only for me as a host, but also, for the audience as well. I mean, because
Sure.
you want to deliver really good information, useful information, something that people can use in their own business. And we really try to stay away from the flakes, the people who have these grandiose claims that they can make you rich while you're like taking a shower, in 10 minutes. We really want to have people on our show that have been in the trenches and have, really have great business experience and have a lot of things to share with people. But we want to make it entertaining as well, because obviously you can absorb a lot more information if we're able to capture the interest of the audience. And if we're really boring, we're just, and it's just cut and dry, and it's like reading a textbook, then we're not gonna have that opportunity.
So yeah. Advice wise, sorry, Jenna, did you have a question before I jump in?
No, I was agreeing. I can understand. The only thing I would add really quick before you ask your question, Jeff, is, and we talk about this a lot, Jeff and I, you have to be a little bit more expressive when you're talking about something that is just audio, and not visual, just because we're visually geared as people, so a lot of times when you get that person like you were talking about, that's kind of, you've run out of questions, or they're giving you two-line answers, and you're like, okay, what do I do here? You always have to kind of pump them up and keep them moving so that there's interest within the podcast. There's highs and lows within the podcast for the whole 20, 25 minutes. And sometimes that can be challenging,
Yeah, I'm fortunate that I started in radio, and actually our entire staff, with the exception of one of our owners, we all have radio backgrounds. So, we've kind of learned, we've gone through the paces, we kind of have a bit understanding of how that all works and how to really, how to kind of work a guest. We're also in sales too. So,
sure.
And we come from marketing backgrounds as well. So we, obviously if you're in a sales meeting, you have to, be able to state your case to somebody in order to try to make that sale. And then sometimes it means, that you have to take kind of an end around or do whatever in order to make it, go. And so we have that experience. And so we're fortunate to be able to do that and do it well.
Yeah, that's great.
Hey, so here's my question. So for our listeners, everyone's into podcasting, and there's hundreds of thousands of them now. What would you identify with your experience of doing podcasts over the 13 plus years? What would you say to them as to why it's important for them to do a podcast?
There's a couple different reasons, and I'm glad you asked that question. And I've been asked this question a lot, especially as we're trying to sell our services. I think the number one reason why it's important is, in this day and age, it's probably one of the most useful lead generation tools there is out there. And it's for a couple of reasons. Number one, and we kind of talked about this a little bit before, you're able, especially on both audio and video, but especially on video, you're able to make that kind of connection with people. And you're able to have conversations with people. Any type of sales opportunity never happens. It will never happen without making a connection first. And so this is our opportunity to do that. And we never go on a podcast and do this real hard sell type thing. When we're doing our podcast, we're talking about what we do and how we do it and what the opportunities are and that type of thing. But it's really more of a time for us to connect with the audience and kind of create that warm lead opportunity, as opposed to that real hard sell type thing. So that's number one. But number two is we're also creating a lot of content that's very useful. It can be useful in terms of, using it to reach out to other people, to a lot of different people, through the services that we use, the streaming services that we use. But also the content can be used for anything from, if you're doing like an email blast, for instance, you can add that type of content to the email blast to make it more interesting. Blogging, used to be really huge, but this day and age, it's actually kind of dropping off. People don't want to read their information. We're all a little bit lazy, I guess. We want to, and plus it's hard to make a connection when you're reading what somebody wrote. It's much easier when you're able to hear the voice and understand the passion behind whatever they're trying to talk about. So it works that way. Social media is awesome. And this is where video really comes in really well, is that we can take clips or just bites of the different interviews that we do, and we can take very interesting moments, and we share those with people on different social media platforms, whether it be LinkedIn or Facebook or TikTok, whatever the case might be. So that gives you a lot more traction, a lot more mileage as well. Again, there's a bazillion different things that we could talk about, but those are just a few of the reasons why I believe that podcasting works really well as far for our business anyway, for the clients that we work with.
Yeah, and we believe that too. That's one of the reasons we started the podcast. I mean, our whole goal for our podcast was to help other businesses and make people aware of other businesses, because that's the hardest part, right? I mean, it's impossible to know all these different businesses that are out there. I love when we get like yours is very unique. We've never actually interviewed another podcast business before, so it's really unique to be able to have you on board the show. But just to be able to tell your story and to tell what your services are really can help expand your reach and your marketing as well. So that for us, that's kind of fun to be able to do. So I'm curious, and I love to ask this question. You 13 years as a startup. What have been some of the highs and what have been some of the lows for us? Share a few things, and the reason I asked that question, Neal, is as you're thinking about your answer there. The reason I asked that question is that sometimes what we find is people get in the business and they think they're the only ones going through whatever they're going through, and when businesses share their story, they're like, "Oh, I thought I was the only one going through that." And so it encourages them to keep pushing on. That's why we like to do that. So what would be some highs, some lows, any order you want, but just give us one.
Well, we'll start with the highs. Well, I'll start with the lows, actually, so we can end on a good note.
All right,
for us personally, is that there's four of us that are partners in this business, and we all came from different businesses and combined this, our efforts together. We're all really good at what we do. At least we think we are. We tell ourselves we're really good at what we do. And we all have that kind of personality, that leader type personality. So when you've got four people in the room that all have very strong personalities, who have been leaders in business for a long time, it's really hard to get your voice through. We do a lot of talking, not a lot of listening, if that makes sense. Totally. So that's probably been the biggest struggle, but interestingly enough, we've been able to overcome it, and it wasn't easy. We've had some dragouts, to be honest with you, but we all understand what the end goal is of our business and what we're trying to accomplish, and we set the business up to succeed from the very beginning. So if we get off track, we just go back to the paperwork that we started the first day that we decided to do this business. So that's probably been the biggest challenge that we've had. There's a couple of things as far as successes are concerned that I can really point out. Number one is our business is doing extremely well. We've produced over 300 episodes of different podcasts, our own and for our clients, since October. We see here 13 years. We're really kind of a 13-year-old startup in a sense, in that we started as a Fortune 5000 marketing company, and then just kept one of the products that we were using for ourselves, and created a whole new business from that. So since October, we have, like I said, we produced over 300 episodes for various people, for ourselves and everything. And so we've been successful to be able to do that. And we continue to bring on new clients, and that's really good. For me personally, the biggest, I think, success that I can tell you about is, when I've been in business now, sales and marketing, for 4 decades. And so I've learned a lot over the years. I've learned from a lot of wonderful people, and I think sometimes I know who I am, right? My business breakthroughs, I interview people like yourself who have great backgrounds as well. A lot of the people that I've interviewed, have military backgrounds. They've been in corporate world. Some of them have been CEOs, just with major corporations and stuff. And they come on my show, and I just realize how little I really do know. And so, not only have we actually provided our audience with some useful tools that they can use in their own business, I've learned a ton in the short time that we've been able to do business breakthroughs. So it's been wonderful. That's one of those. I think it's probably the biggest success that I can point to.
Well, and it's good that you are, after 4 decades in the business, you have this kind of attitude. I love that, because we always are learning. The minute you say, I think I know it all and I have all the answers, is when, you're not really listening.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's absolutely an important thing. Well, Neal, we appreciate you being on the show. If people want to get a hold of you, how can they do that?
Well, you can reach me at Neal, Neal, at TitanMediaWorks.com. Works is spelled WORX. Or I'm very active on LinkedIn. You can reach me on LinkedIn as well. Would love to have a conversation with you, talk about your business, and see if maybe there's a way that we can help you.
Appreciate that so much. Awesome. And for all our listeners out there, we're so excited. Podcasting is so much fun. Obviously, you're listening to our podcast, and we got followers all over the world now, and it's fun for us. When we broke that international barrier a few months back, it was very exciting. And so it continues to grow, and it's one of those things that just gets a life of its own. So if you're thinking about podcasting, reach out to Neal at Titan Media Works and let them help you out. But anyway, in the meantime, we always thank all our listeners, because they always give us feedback and make comments and send us emails, and we appreciate that so much. So keep those coming. Until the next time, please stay safe and be healthy.